Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely fascinating. We are going to uncover the hidden architecture inside Surah 18 of the Quran, universally known as the cave. Now, for centuries, people have basically read this chapter as a collection of separate, distinct moral tales. But if you look a little closer, a highly engineered blueprint emerges. It's literally a map of human consciousness.
Okay, let's jump right into this puzzle. On the surface, we're handed four totally unrelated stories, right? You got some youths hiding out in a cave, an arrogant guy showing off two lush gardens, a prophet on this incredibly baffling journey with a mystical guide, and finally, a powerful leader building a massive iron wall. So, why are these specific stories grouped together in one chapter? The text isn't just throwing them at us randomly. It's actually demanding that we figure out the connective tissue.
So, here's our investigation map for today. We'll start with the mystery, break down the analytical key, run through 4 tests of reality, uncover the hidden structural pattern, and finally, arrive at the ultimate verdict.
Section 1. The analytical key and decoding the opening framework. To really solve this literary mystery, we first have to understand how the text systematically interprets itself.
To do that, we'll be using a methodology called tasrif. Basically, that just means contextual self-referencing. Instead of layering on centuries of outside assumptions or secondary traditions, we're going to let the text define its own terms through its internal structure. We're looking strictly at what the text itself is trying to highlight.
Right off the bat, in the opening verses, the text lays out our central thesis. It explicitly states that the book is qayyim, meaning straight, upright, zero crookedness. But in total contrast, it warns against human fabrication and deviation, what it calls awaj. So the opening verses immediately set up this binary. The text provides a straightforward, upright reality, while we humans, well, we constantly fabricate crooked illusions, specifically by making false claims about the ultimate source. Let's see exactly how this plays out.
Section 2. 4 case studies. Let's put reality to the test and look at how each of these stories challenges our human perception. First up, we have the title story itself, The Companions of the Cave. We meet a group of youths fleeing a society that's actively persecuting them for their conscious faith. They retreat to a cave. But analytically speaking, this isn't just some historical hiding spot. It's actually a functional metaphor for preserving your internal awareness, your original pristine state, away from toxic, dominant societal narratives.
So the youths practice this mindful withdrawal to preserve their awareness. But how does society react when they finally discover them? They literally start arguing about exactly how many youths there were. It's basically the ancient equivalent of arguing in a completely missed-the-point internet thread. And then they decide to build a monument over the cave. The text brilliantly highlights this glaring contrast, our human urge to build massive institutions and debate meaningless details versus quiet, conscious alignment with reality.
Next, we shift to a man who's been granted 2 insanely abundant, highly productive physical gardens. Surrounded by all this incredible wealth, the guy becomes profoundly arrogant. He looks at his property and explicitly claims, "I do not think this will ever perish." He views his wealth as absolute, a permanent possession that somehow makes him personally superior to his companion.
But you see, the text systematically, completely dismantles his delusion. It contrasts his arrogant claim of independent ownership and material permanence right up against the reality of total systemic dependence. His companion actually warns him, saying he should have recognized that there is no power except through the source. So when the garden is inevitably destroyed, it's not just some random punishment, it's the collapse of an illusion. The text is redefining a concept called shirk, associating partners with the source. It's not just about bowing to statues, it's the cognitive blindness of thinking material things have independent permanence.
All right. Our third case follows Musa, a prophet, on this highly unusual journey, where he asks to learn from a knowledgeable servant. And this guide proceeds to do 3 totally inexplicable things. He damages a boat belonging to poor people, he ends a youth's life, and he repairs a wall in a town that completely refused them hospitality. Musa, despite his incredibly high status, just cannot maintain his patience. He objects to every single action because he's judging them solely on immediate, surface-level appearances.
And this forces us to confront the severe limits of our own perception. It pits our immediate, surface-level judgments against this vast, unseen matrix of protective cause and effect. The servant explains it all later. Damaging the boat actually saved it from a tyrannical king, the youth would have brought ruin to his parents, the wall was hiding an inheritance for orphans. What looked harmful was actually protective. The surface is simply not the reality. Finally, we meet Dul-Qarnayn, a figure granted immense authority and resources. During his travels, he encounters a vulnerable population suffering from destructive, corrupting forces, and they literally beg him to build a barrier for them, offering him wealth in exchange.
Now notice the stark contrast here against standard human behavior. Normally, absolute power is all about economic extraction, hoarding, and top-down control, right? But Dul-Qarnayn refuses their tribute. He recognizes that his power is merely a temporary conduit, a sabab, from the source. Instead of extracting their wealth, he mobilizes the community. He teaches them to build their own protection using iron and molten copper. He stewards resources justly, fully aware that even this massive wall is temporary and will eventually crumble when the source wills it.
Section 3. The hidden pattern. When we step back, these four distinct narratives suddenly merge into a singular, highly engineered structural matrix.
Looking at these elements side by side, it's like a giant puzzle coming together. The crucial pattern emerges. Every single story systematically tears down an external illusion, what the text calls the zina, the adornment of the physical world, to reveal an enduring hidden reality, the akhirah. The cave dismantles cultural narratives in favor of internal awareness. The gardens dismantle linear ownership for systemic alignment. Musa's journey dismantles surface ethics to reveal an unseen matrix. And Dul-Qarnayn dismantles top-down extraction to model empowering stewardship. It is one sustained, powerful message delivered from four totally distinct angles.
And this overarching architectural theme is backed up by some very specific recurring diagnostic vocabulary. Remember tasrif? The text redefines words we think we already know. For instance, qala, speech, appears over 40 times, diagnosing how we humans constantly construct false claims that are completely divorced from reality. Shirk becomes the act of attributing permanence to temporary things. Sabr, which we usually just translate as patience, is redefined here as the profound capacity to withhold your surface-level judgment when you don't have the full picture. And ilm and gaib represent deep, unseen knowledge versus our very superficial human habit of just guessing.
Then, right in the middle of this massive structure, the text provides this stark, almost darkly humorous psychological summary of our condition. But the human is, more than anything, argumentative. It's so true, isn't it? Even when we are presented with reality, we prefer to construct arguments, fabricate institutions, and debate trivial details. We would literally rather argue than align. Which brings us to Section 4, the final verdict. Let's look at the ultimate conclusion of this incredible psychological deep dive. The source wraps up exactly where it began. It warns us against making false claims and commands us to recognize the ultimate source. It warns impartially that any claim of independence, material permanence, or self-derived power is simply a total illusion.
So Surah 18 isn't just a collection of historical parables. It is a mirror held right up to human consciousness, which leaves us with this final provocative thought to carry forward into your own life. When you look at your wealth, your power, your judgments, and your beliefs, are you truly aligning your consciousness with ultimate reality? Or are you merely constructing and arguing over your own illusions? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating architectural blueprint with me today.